this is going to get the jerk question award. I'm a little frustrated. I feel I have to ask this for my children's sake. I asked the question about $13.043 trillion debt and how much we're spending, and I asked for examples of programs that each of you would cut. And while everybody else was asking their questions, I added up the cost of the actual programs you gave me. I love iPhones, by the way. NEA is $167 million, NEH is $145 million, Amtrak subsidy is $1.6 billion, Post Office is $3.79 billion, for a total of $6.05 billion. America spends that in 1.5 days. If we cannot stand up, whoever we send to Washington, D.C., and say the federal government has to get smaller and there have to be these federal departments have to be gone, we're never going to get there. I'd like each of you to take a moment to tell us more than the $6.05 billion that you will cut.
Yeah. Thank you for that follow-up, Jeff. Let me just say that I have been talking about eliminating the Department of Education and block granting the money to the states. If you want to have real education reform, have it closer to those local districts and closer. Everybody's looking up here. Is that okay? Are we all right? And closer to the families. But where's the money? It's in our entitlement programs. And we need to have a serious conversation about our entitlement programs, folks. We need to talk about Social Security. We need to talk about Medicare. Because right now they are on a glide path that is unsustainable. They will be insolvent in just a few years if we do not reform them. And our friends on the left always like to say you're scaring seniors. And so what I've talked about is that we need to have a serious discussion. And for those people close to retirement at 55 and above, we would not touch benefits. But for people under that, just entering the job market, can we talk about increasing the age of retirement? Can we talk about cost of living increases that are automatic? Can we talk about means testing Medicare for wealthy individuals? Right now, if it's a wealthy individual goes to their doctor and says, I don't want to use Medicare, I want to just give you cash to pay for it, that's illegal. The physician would be, that would be a violation. The physician can't treat that person. So we need some changes in our entitlement program if we are going to be serious about balancing the budget. And I am willing to have those conversations because our republic is in jeopardy. And if we don't, it'll bankrupt America.
Jeff, I think there are some easy ones that I mentioned to you, and they aren't certainly a lot of money. In the overall scheme of things, $6 billion is a lot of money. I wouldn't mind having that in my campaign coffers right now, but it isn't there. I think what's important is we look at whose role it is. I think as a United States Senator, I'd love to serve on the Budget Committee, and I'd love to have those department heads come in and explain to me why their agencies aren't functioning. I'll give you an example. In 1977, folks, we formed the Department of Energy. The Department of Energy was formed with the express mission to reduce America's dependence on foreign energy. We are now more dependent on foreign energy than we have ever been. And it is not accomplishing its mission. I want the Secretary of Energy to come in to my committee, it was easy to say, and explain exactly why they can't accomplish their mission. I've talked to a lot of small business people around this state, and they understand that if they can't accomplish their mission, they're not going to make a profit. And that Secretary of Energy has to understand if he can't accomplish his mission, he's not going to get the funding he got the year before or the year before that. I think there are many agencies like that, education, transportation, and others. But the real issue has to be a meaningful and responsible way to cut those agencies. And that comes from sitting down and listening to people and explaining to them, we don't have the money, folks. Has anybody here ever seen $1 trillion? I haven't either. Jane and I were in a Lincoln Day dinner, and I think it was Buena Vista, Jane. And the speaker was dressed up as Abraham Lincoln and said that if you stacked dollar bills on top of each other, $1 trillion would reach 30 miles high. Folks, we don't have it. We're going off a cliff right now. And we've got to work with this administration to make sure that we are cutting every aspect of government that we can cut.
So I'll say it again. This election is about integrity. It's about, can you trust who you send back? You want to be on the budget committee? Your budget as Will County DA has grown by 40%. Folks, it's the record. It is the record. And records are important. Integrity matters. And when you say you want to go back and cut, but we can't trust you in Greeley, why can we trust you in Washington? Health Department, the general fund appropriation, what I had responsibility for was cut by 28%.
Next question is David Kelly to Ken.
Ken, I have a question here from a good friend, Elliot, who is a good liberty lover. He asks, what role should the federal government play in cases of disasters like Katrina and the BP oil spill? And also, what is the constitutional authority for such a role?
What role should the federal government play? The federal government, and let's take BP as an example. The federal government in Section 1, Article 8, is responsible for maritime law. The federal government has a role under the Constitution in terms of, in offshore drilling rigs or actually vessels, has a responsibility in that regard. I think in terms of BP, we should do three things. We should have responded better, we should work on recovery, and we should work on reloading. Responding means that we should have, when states asked for assistance, we should have built sand barriers to help with that. When states asked for assistance to waive the Jones Act, a federal law prohibiting foreign vessels from operating in the United States under certain circumstances, we should have waived the Jones Act. Again, a waiver of a federal law under the Constitution. When states asked for other things, we should have responded much more quickly than we did. And so, while certainly this administration is not blameless for what is happening right now. How do we recover? We recover by making sure that our states have the resources they need and that the federal government holds BP and other corporations responsible. We will not put this burden on taxpayers' backs. That would be the wrong thing to do in this situation. Now, what do we do in terms of reloading? Part of the problem that we've got is a poor energy policy, and we need to have an energy policy that makes sense in this country. We need to make sure that we are drilling in Colorado, putting people back to work. We need to make sure that we look at nuclear energy in this country. We need to we have clean coal technology that is on the horizon, and we should be developing our coal resources. If renewables are economically feasible, by all means we should be looking at renewables, but we have to have a sensible energy policy.